moment. And that means that we're live. So, hey, welcome to Over 50 Starting Over, everyone. I'm Barry Edwards. And we have a special guest here today. This is Dan The Fireman. You've heard his name many times, and he is guest hosting today. How you doing today, Dan?
Fantastic. Happy Friday, Barry.
Happy Friday. And what a difference a day makes, huh?
Boy, did you walk outside yet this morning?
Oh, yeah. I had to take the dog for a walk. You know, I got to take him for a walk 3 to 4 times a day. He's a puppy. He's got so much energy and all of that. And I got to tell you, all week, it was freezing. Yes. Freezing, man. And today it's so mild. I was in a light jacket this morning.
I may actually fire up the grill tonight for dinner.
Oh, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Lisa says she might want to do a happy hour this afternoon. So very happy about that. That sounds great. Yeah.
Can we do a selfless plug for a restaurant up in the Heights?
Definitely.
I'm going to pronounce it wrong, I'm sure. I think it's Shug or
right. On Cedar Hill.
Yes.
I think you pronounce it Jug.
Jug.
Like SZCH, Jug. Yeah, I'm sure that's how.
Heard nothing but great things about it.
We've been there a couple times. I call it, my brother and I call it a girly restaurant. It's like you get your appetizers as food. And I think you would like it. You're a foodie.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm like, hey, if I'm paying $20 for something, I don't want to go home. Per thing, I don't want to go home hungry. Right. And Doug Katz owns that, who's a famous chef out here. He owned Fire, which is now closed down at Shaker Square. Yeah, Shaker Square is very much under debate because it's gone downhill so badly. And they're trying to bring it back. I don't like going to Shaker Square, but Doug Katz he pivoted on a dime when COVID hit and opened up. I forget the name of his takeout thing, but we've gotten it many times. And so he's been doing takeout all through COVID and would do these super Sundays or something and do these specials. And we got it many times. And dude, there's several times he's delivered the stuff himself. And that's my point. I've talked about him on the show before because I admire him. I'm sure he could have rode COVID out in all the grants and everything else that he just loves what he does. And I don't think he can sit still. I mean, he's always doing something new. I love the guy. Okay. So a little preliminary stuff. First of all, we got to introduce how our friendship, there's a lot I want to talk about. I'm going to say up front, everybody, we want to talk to Dan for a while because there's a lot. This is Over 50 Starting Over. Okay. So he's a new granddad. He just got married in October. You heard me talk about that. And you're retiring in a matter of weeks.
Yes.
Weeks at this point. That's huge.
Actually, 3 weeks from right now.
Who's counting?
No, actually 3 weeks and an hour and 35 minutes. I will be officially retired.
I think that's amazing. And there's a lot that we want to talk about there because I think, in my opinion, you have a rather young person's view on retiring versus the traditional that most of us Gen X and even baby boomers that watch the show, listen to the show, that have. So I think it's going to be really interesting in that regard. We're going to get to that, but we should talk about, I want you to talk about like how we first met, because there's a story right there.
It goes way, it's a solid 20 years.
Yeah. It's about 20 years exactly now.
Yes. And I'm trying to remember, for instance.
Well, I'm going to say I had a house fire. That's how it really starts, because I had just gotten that house, was remodeling the whole thing. And I didn't know better. I was throwing I tore down the whole ceiling of my kitchen, and it's plaster and lath, old house. And I'm throwing all this lath into my fireplace.
Yes.
Dumb. Now I know how dumb that was. That stuff burns hotter than anything you'll ever.
Correct.
Find. So I threw a crap load of it in the fireplace and took my dog for a walk, Bowser. And I came back and it's smoking, the chimney smoking like crazy. And I'm staring at it for a minute going, what do I do? And I'm like, do I grab the hose? And the smoke is getting more and more and more as I'm standing there. What do? I grab the dog and I grab a cigar and I go outside and call the fire department. Those were my priorities. I think I grabbed my backup hard drive too, if I was really thinking. But it was about 2 weeks later, I'm out with a friend playing pool, and she's like, I know this dude, you're going to really like him. And so we were playing pool, and I started talking about, I'm like, you're a fireman? And you're like, that house on Jackson? And that's how we met.
So somehow Sandy Coghill was the one that introduced us to each other. If you remember that, it was Sandy. And I actually think it was, if I remember right, your fire was in wintertime. If I remember. I didn't meet you until the springtime.
Oh, okay. So it's a few months, a couple months. Okay,
here's why I remember that. I was getting ready to go on a cruise, and I think I was leaving the next day. I was on shift, and I think your fire was in the evening time, or maybe later into the evening.
I think so, yeah.
And I remember I was just hoping to have a quiet night before I went on vacation. And nope. Had to go over to Barry's house for a house fire. That's how I remember it. But long story short, Sandy mentioned to me, I think months later, because I do remember it was springtime. The weather was getting nice again. And she said, I got this good friend of mine, yada, yada, yada. You guys should meet. And she goes, I'm going to be playing pool with him at a sports place out in Willoughby on Lost Nation.
Yeah, that's right.
And I don't even think I had been there before. And I said, well, I said, okay, when are you doing it? Blah, blah, blah. And she gave me a date. So this place is gigantic, they have everything there. I walk into the bar area because that's where the pool tables are. And I literally walk right up, and I'm getting ready to order a beer. And the bartender just says, are you Barry's brother? And I go, who's Barry? I mean, I knew I was meeting Barry, but it was just so far out of left field. I was like, who's Barry? And he's like, oh, he's back there playing pool. I said, all right, grab me a couple beers. So I walk back there, you're playing pool with Sandy, and we just start talking, and then, it's the obligatory small talk, and then you move on to, so what do you do for a living kind of thing?
Yeah.
And that's when I remember, I said, I'm a firefighter. And you're like, oh yeah, where at? And I go, South Euclid. And you're like, well, I live in University Heights, and a few months ago I had a house fire. And I'm like, it started in your chimney, didn't it? And you live on Jackson?
Yeah, you knew it, yeah.
And then it just went from there.
Well, what was interesting at that time, we were coming right off the heels of 9/11. And so we hit it off big time. I mean, we were like instant best friends. And so we're going out all the time, and you never hesitated to pull the fireman card out. Like, you got a fireman special? And they usually like, sure, park for free, whatever.
Sure. Yes.
Well, it wasn't just a few months later that we orchestrated ourselves into a trip to Spain. And do you recognize this? I got a few pictures here.
I do. And can we tell the quick backstory of how Spain came to fruition?
Sure. Let's speed this up because we got a lot more to talk about.
All right. So real quick, we had our mutual friend, Tony Jones.
Right.
He was selling some season passes for the Browns, season ticket packages.
Sure.
And I also had that part-time job in the mortgage industry. Boy, look how young we are, man.
We look like a couple of kids. Cameras have come a long ways.
Are we even shaving yet?
But look how similar we look. And your next door neighbor, that old lady used to always call me Dan. She thought it was you all the time.
Yes.
When I came over.
Yes. But real quick, we sold that season ticket package. So we had some money to play with, and I remember that one, the Metropolitan.
That's in Madrid.
That was an homage to the Metropolitan at West 6th and St. Clair that we used to go all the time.
Right. Yeah.
But anyways, we had a bunch of dough, and I remember Tony said, "Where do you want to go?" And of course, I was like, "Put-in Bay." Yeah.
Put-in Bay, right. And Tony's
So,
like, maybe we should shoot a little higher than that.
right.
And then we started talking, if you could go anywhere in the world, that's when we started the fantasy talking. Like, if you go anywhere in the world, where would you go? And our number one was Rio de Janeiro.
Correct.
Our number two was Spain. But we decided, we ruled out Rio because of the crime. Probably not a bad call.
In Spain, and this is actually like
we had to take this picture by this poster.
That is fantastic. You know what? And I think the translation is something about different perspectives, if I remember right. I'm wondering what I'm holding in my left hand.
Oh, good. That looks like whatever you call that money. I was going to say dinero, but what is?
They were on the euro. They were on the euro.
Oh, really? Yeah. I think that's what that is. I'm not sure.
But I remember. I
remember this day. Here. We're in Plaza de Mayor.
Plaza Mayor. Yes.
Right. And that's me, because we were there in November and it was cold for the most part, but it was nice and sunny, and the concrete kind of it was absorbing the sun. So we were all kind of thawing out that day.
Yeah. And I think the whole reason we did Spain first, and this is probably a good recommendation to anybody that's never been abroad yet. Everybody knows a little bit of Spanish, right? And it's easy to learn some of the basics. You could probably learn that on the flight over. And it's a good starting point, I think.
It is. This, by the way, is on the Ramblers in Barcelona.
Correct. Right. Yes.
And I love Barcelona, dude. I could live there. I really felt at home in Barcelona.
Yeah, Barcelona is beautiful.
Okay, that brings. This is not in any order, but if you recall, I know this was 2013, and this was our beginning of our bachelor party for JT. A bunch of stuff. There's JT right there in the corner there. Very unique bachelor party. And
I'm drinking the water out.
Oh, look at that! Your audio.
These?
Yes, JT and Allie. I designed those.
Yeah.
But your audio really went crappy right there for a minute.
I think because I think I moved my head away from the microphone. Is that better?
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're fine now. Okay. I have something else I want to show you. This is gonna crack you up.
I thought we were smart all day.
I think drinking
freaking
and
brilliant.
riding our bikes was smart.
Just get smart.
Driving.
This is. Oh, wait a minute.
Well, I'm just really glad that Allie came by and helped. Actually, not help, but set up the tents for us.
Right.
That was loud. Was that loud for you?
Yeah, a little bit. It wasn't horrible.
Okay. But Allie had to come by and set up the tents for us. That was pretty pathetic. That was our overnight bike ride on the towpath, which was so much fun. 2013, that was our bachelor party. That's a bachelor party over 40 for people over 40. Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. I have one final share, I think, that you're going to really like, and we're going to have to start moving along. And another one of the things we did, this is interesting. So we also, not long after Spain, we organized this little trip to Cancun and Cozumel.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that was a lot of fun. But did you just hear Wednesday in the news, these five, what do you call that? The drug dealers over there. Cartel. Yeah. These 5 people from a cartel dressed in military garb listen to this, man, on jet skis, storm a beach at Cancun a resort area with guns, and start firing in the air and everything. And everybody ran for cover. You didn't hear about that? That was just Wednesday.
I think I did hear but there's so much violence coming out of there. You get numb to it after a while.
Yeah, that's for sure. But I mean, I still kind of thought that that Mexico is a fairly safe place in the resort areas, but I'm kind of thinking not at this point. Okay, so finally, I have had since about 2006 or 7 this part of my website, our Greece trip in 2006. So I have this, and this is my most trafficked part of my website. It has been for years. So there's the whole chronological trip laid out for you here if you want to check it out. And we met these two really nice girls as soon as we got over there, Barb and Anna. And then we met Baxter, the little dog, as we were climbing up Mount Thera. That was us on the way up there. It was the first thing we did as soon as we got there. And so if you guys want to check this out, it's all with captions and everything. This is remember that day? This is the next day. We're on our way to the island of Therasia.
Yes, and we stopped at the caldera of Santorini. Do you remember everybody? As soon as we docked, there was the mad rush to get up, get in line, and get off the boat. And you and I went down to the bar, got a couple of beers.
It's probably 10 in the morning, 9 in the morning.
And we were still on the boat, and everybody was assembling on the dock with our guide.
Yes.
Remember?
Right.
We opened our beers, and that guy stopped in mid-sentence, and he looked at us, and we're like, you can't drink beer here? And he goes, what did he say? Something like,
well, no, you can, but just nobody ever did that before.
And so, hey, another shameless plug, that was Mythos beer. Delicious. Oh,
well, I have our famous picture in here that you staged and you took the picture. This is us coming back from Therasia. I love that picture right here. And everything. And this is that dog that looks like Bowser, the wild dog. They have all kinds of wild dogs there in Santorini. And there it is. So look at that picture. Mykonos Island, September 16th, 2006. And by the way, we left for Greece on the 5th anniversary of September 11th.
That is correct.
So we were a little apprehensive about that. Maybe that's why we got cheap flights.
Yeah, and we also weren't packed either on those flights.
Right. So, and what did we learn between Spain and Greece is the best time to go to Europe on one of these beautiful trips is September. You get barely outside of tourist season, and so you get a better deal. But you're outside of tourist season, so the crowds and everything, but it's still beautiful over there. They basically have the same seasons that we have.
Yeah.
For the most
weather
part.
was fantastic. Boy, those pictures beautiful.
So if you guys want to look this up and this is the best part where JT transforms into Rick. Yes.
Rick.
And he said when he takes out those sunglasses and put them on, he gets 110% cooler, and he proved us right. So he spots these girls over here, and remember this guy feeling it right here. And next thing you know, he's up there partying with them and everything. And this picture is just
there it is
in its own right. But then he starts partying with these girls, and that was the last we saw of them until the next day.
Correct.
So we're in a foreign country. Our buddy just disappears for like 24 hours.
Hey, didn't he go to a family dinner with those girls?
Oh, we
that night,
a wedding or something.
He wound up at a private home at a dinner table.
This is us crashing a wedding, isn't it? I don't remember. Then this is us in Athens. All right. So if you want to check it out, you could just Google Barry Edwards, Greece, and it'll come right up.
Yeah.
And let's get out of there. Let's get on to some practical talk here.
Yeah.
And so you just became a new grandfather. You just got married in October to Janine after 10. You guys been together like 10 years.
Yep, 10 years, 10 and a half.
Made for each other for sure. And you first met when we were out partying in our old days when we were out all the time. And we used to hang with her and her friend Carrie for a long time. And you kind of sort of dated for about a minute, but she knew at that time you weren't ready at that time.
I was wild child I was.
But then we all kind of went our separate ways for several years. And then you were out at the Parkview, which is a really great, they call it a nightclub. It's loosely a nightclub. It's a neighborhood bar. It's really nice. That's by you in Gordon Square. Right. And you were out at night, and you ass dialed her or something, right?
She ass dialed me.
Yeah.
I looked at my phone and I remember saying, boy, I know this number, but I don't know this number. And I thought, I'm just going to let it go to voicemail.
Yeah.
And I did not get a voicemail. So curiosity got the better of me. I waited a few minutes. I went outside on the patio where it was quiet and I just hit redial. And as soon as Janine answered the phone, I recognized her voice.
Yeah.
And then we talked for about 20 minutes, just catching up on things. And
you guys always had great chemistry.
Yeah.
You know?
And I distinctly remember thinking to myself, she's either married or she's dating somebody. It's impossible. But I still wanted to take that risk and ask her out to a happy hour. Mm-hmm. And I was totally ready to be told, oh, I can't.
Yeah.
And I remember I'm by myself on the patio and I get up the nerve and I said, hey, would you like to do a happy hour? She's like, I'd love to. And my initial response to that was, well, you're not married? And I remember she kind of laughed and she said, oh God, no, I'm not married. Yeah. And I said, are you dating anybody? And she's like, no. And I remember, I think I did like a fist bump or something. And then we set up a date and it's all history after that. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's really something else. And then as more coincidences go, we have a friend, you're close to Diana Schultzke, and a friend that we've had for many years, just in the crowd and everything. And she has a son, Nick, how did this story go? Okay. So then Janine has her daughter, Tana.
Correct.
Yeah. How did that story go?
So a few years back, 4 years, maybe 5 years. Okay. At the most. We were at a fundraiser at the ABC Tavern, and Diana was there, and Janine knew Diana, and Diana's son, Nick, and his friend were there. And Nick's a good looking guy.
He's a good dude. He's just an all-around great
also
dude.
Very good guy too. Yeah. Well-grounded. Mm-hmm. And Janine, that was the first time she met him. So of course,
she
was like, oh, he'd be perfect for my daughter, just the
doing that stuff.
Yeah. The quintessential setup,
Yeah. That never works.
Janine whips out, her phone. We had iPhones back then. Whips out her phone and starts showing Nick pictures of Tana.
Tana's a good looking girl too.
Right. And Nick is, you can tell that Nick's like, well, she's very attractive and this, but Nick
he's
also
polite,
Yeah. But he also said, this is really weird. And I don't think I'm interested kind of thing. So it was a 5-minute conversation and everybody went on their own way and no harm, no foul. And I think we got home that night and Tana was living with us. She had graduated college, and she was working and she was living with us, and we showed her pictures of Nick, and same thing. He's cute, but weird. And gonna move on. 2-3 months later, it's springtime and Tana is at an Indians game and she's looking at a guy that's 2 rows in front of her maybe, and she's looking at him and she's like, I know him from somewhere, and she just can't place it, and she gets the nerve to just walk up to him and she says, don't I know you from somewhere? And that's when the light bulbs went on for both of them. And, oh my God, our parents tried to set us up 3 months ago.
And long story short, 2 years ago they're married, and I said about that, if 2 people ever needed to get married, it was them. Their chemistry is just through the roof. They are friends and lovers and husband and wife, and now parents. And now parents. Proud grandparents. And that's a great story. And oh my God, like I'm not kidding. If 2 people ever needed to be married, it was them.
Right. And don't forget, I married them.
Oh, right.
And then Nick returned the favor and married Janine and I.
Correct, because you could get your license if you got like $35 and 10 minutes to fill out the form online.
Yeah, you can be anything you want to be.
And you also married off JT and Allie
JT and
back there
Allie.
in Maine. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm still doing good. I did 5 weddings. I officiated 5 weddings. 4 are still together. So
wow.
80%.
That's
80%
today that's a
rate.
heck of a track record. Hey, I want to talk a bit about your experience as a fireman because you know what, in retrospect, that went by so quick. So
Yes.
20 years ago when we met, you were the young guy on the
Correct.
force, right? And you're always complaining about those old guys and all that. And you and I talked very recently about how the culture has changed considerably. Yeah, it was what was that show with that comedian about firemen?
Rescue Me with Dennis Leary.
Yeah, that was a fantastic show. And I only discovered that a few years ago. And it was like, boom, man, it's just like being with Dan in that culture back then.
Yeah.
You and I talked about it. I watched that whole series twice.
Yeah.
Actually, I loved it. I'd watch it again if I could find it. But what I wanted to ask you is, this is amazing. We've been dear friends for 20 years. You've told me about only a handful of calls in all of that time. You just really left that stuff behind. You didn't bring it home with you.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you now, is there any like particular call or two that really sticks out to you, like a funny one? And then I'd even like to ask you like a heart-wrenching one, a horror.
Yeah, there's both. And
I'm going to play something in the background while you tell us.
All right. There's both, but just backing up a little bit, I think the reason why, I can't speak for everybody, but I think you go on a call and you do whatever you need to do.
Yeah. And
then you kind of just blot it out of your memory. Wow. and you move on, you move forward because you got another call, there's more coming. And I always remembered, people would be like, well, how can you not remember what you did 3 hours ago? And
wow,
I really can't put my finger on it because I don't know if you just
watch this, buddy, watch this. And I know most of you are listening. This is I'm just playing random video clips of a fire.
Oh yeah, guy drops.
Oh my God, drops right through a roof and then it explodes in a fire. And I'm going to get you right back to what you're saying. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that reminds me, you did tell me about this time that you were in a fire and you fell through the steps.
I did. It was a basement fire and we went in the side door. It was a typical bungalow. So when you come in the side door, you can go straight down into the basement or you usually take a hard right. You go up 2 or 3 steps and you're in a kitchen. Okay. And this had been cooking for a long time down in the basement. And there was 2 of us on the hose line and the basement stairs were already weakened because the fire was very close. The origination of the fire was very close to the basement stairs. And the 2 of us the stairs just gave way and down we went. Now, was it like falling 50 feet? No. It was maybe falling 6 feet, 7 feet. But the problem is, A, you're not expecting that. So that's a surprise.
B, you got debris falling on you.
B, you got a little bit of debris, but C, your face mask gets displaced.
Oh.
So immediately you go into life protection.
Watch this guy.
Let's see, I'm watching him. Yeah, he's.
Have you been faced with that kind of thing? Like he's
trying to force a door open. It looks like,
dude, that is scary right there.
Well, that the gear that we wear now is fantastic. And
I'm sorry. So you were talking about when you fell.
Both of our masks got displaced a little bit. So there was a little bit of breathing in, that toxic smoke. And there was a brief moment of, wow, is this it? And it wasn't for minutes. It was just a nanosecond of, I might die.
Yeah.
And of course we didn't, put the mask back on and had just a little bit of debris. Got our bearings back as best as possible, and then went on and put the fire out. But and I wouldn't even call that a close call for me. There's been other guys that have had way worse things happen to them than that. So, but I've been, knock on wood, I've been very lucky that, very minor injuries over 30 years. And I got, I believe, 5 shifts left. So let's hope my luck holds out.
Well, we've talked a lot over the last few years about you're good about letting the young guys go do it.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Don't be a hero. Yeah. You're good about it.
They love it. And yeah, go ahead. You want to take the nozzle from me and go on in first? You're more than welcome. I'll tag along.
You're 53 or 52?
52. 52 and change.
And so you're very young to be retiring, but as we're talking right now, it's a young man's game. You don't want somebody 62 years old coming over and trying to save your life. You want the 24-year-old.
No. And I started at 22, and you can definitely, now that I'm looking back, you can definitely see the changes in your productivity from 22 to 32 to 42 to 52.
Wow.
The aches and pains are a lot more.
I bet.
Getting up in the middle of the night and being, sharp at a moment's notice, a lot harder at 52 than it was at 22 or 32. Recovering the next day from a hard night. I remember, in my 20s and 30s, I had whatever secondary job was available. I did roofing, I did painting, strenuous things that I would
do those house closings.
Yeah, but I would leave work, and if I had 3 hours of sleep, it didn't affect me. I just went and did my job. Now, I can't even imagine doing that.
Yeah.
Because it's just it just really it's cumulative. That's the best way to put it. And
it's a good way to put it.
Yeah. And I'm really I'm sure I'm gonna miss the camaraderie, and I'm sure I'm gonna miss the banter. I'm not gonna miss, getting up in the middle of the night and interrupted sleep. I mean, I'm not gonna miss that at all. That's probably this thing.
Oh, for sure. I kind of equate that to, I taught college there in Lakeland for about 18 years. And all I think about, I loved teaching and I was good at it. So I really did like it. But man, the only thing I think about is, thank God I don't have to do that drive there and back every Friday. It was kind of a long drive, and it was in rush hour, and I hated it. So that's how you're going to be. You're going to be thinking about, I don't miss, and you're going to rattle it off,
Right. I do remember a sidebar on your teaching gig. I do remember you always got a Whopper at Burger King.
Oh, they always had these 2 for $3 specials or something like that. How do I pass that up?
I'd call you up. Hey, what are you doing? Oh, I'm eating a
Whopper. So as you head to retirement at such a young age, and a theme to this show, Over 50, starting over, is we talk a lot about, do different issues. Do I leave corporate America now and do what I always wanted to do at this important time of my life? When can I retire? What's that going to look like? There's all these different things that we're all thinking about right now.
Right.
And so with you, you're in a in my opinion, fairly unique position of retiring young with a nice pension and everything. What are your plans to do? You got a lot of time on your hands ahead of you.
Yeah. And that's just it. And I don't have a concrete plan, which probably would make some people roll their eyes and think that, well, this guy is doomed. And I get that. Right. Yeah. But for me, I think it's going to take me a couple of months to get back to normal civilian life that you and everybody else is used to. And when I say that, I mean sitting down to a meal and not being interrupted. And,
right.
And also and these are just such small things that probably don't mean anything to anybody. But for instance, slowing down how fast I eat my food.
Oh, that's funny. Because
Okay.
dude, I've always noticed that about you. I thought I was bad. No,
Yeah.
you get right into your food and it's like a job, a mission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You for lack of a better term, you shovel it in because
Oh.
you don't know if you get a call, it could be another hour and a half before you eat,
Yeah.
maybe even longer, depending on what happens, right?
Right.
So for 30 years, I've gotten in this habit of just shoveling it in,
Mm-hmm.
not really enjoying the food, number one, but B, when you sit down with somebody to have a meal, just the interaction, the conversation, they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So there's that. Sleeping all night, uninterrupted.
That's a big one.
I can't even put a dollar value on that.
Well, does it spill over? So you like you got 24 hours on and then 48 hours off
Right.
is basically how
Right.
it goes. So does that interruption, does that spill over? Like even when you're at home, you're like, oh crap, I gotta sleep with one eye open.
No, when I'm home, when I climb into bed, it is just like
Oh, okay, cool. I bet you it's not for everybody. I bet you some people.
nobody is gonna bug me for the next 8 hours.
Oh, that's cool.
I can't tell you how many times I've climbed into bed and I'm just like, I am so happy to be here right now.
Oh, that's so cool.
So there's that. Having a weekend off, not working a Saturday or not working a Sunday. So when friends or family reach out and say, hey, in a couple of weeks, we're going here on Saturday night. Do you want to go? Instead of me saying, yeah, I can't, I'm working.
Yeah.
Now I can say, yeah, I can go.
Or it's even with you, a lot of times it's, well, I can go out, but I gotta, get home early. I gotta work in the morning.
Or I can't have a really good time tonight because I gotta be at work at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Right. So I think when I retire, there's going to be a couple of months where I need to get back to center, if you will.
I would say at least a couple months. At least. Yeah.
And then as the months go by, and I have a punch list of things to do here at home, things that I've wanted to do that aren't going to take a lot of technical expertise, but just maybe time.
Oh yeah.
And I'm going to look forward to not being rushed. I'm going to look forward to saying to myself, hey, you know what? I don't have to plow through this today because I have to work tomorrow. I can do a little bit today. I can do a little bit tomorrow. I can do a little bit the next day because I won't be exhausted from the firehouse the night before.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be a few months of getting back to normal, and then kind of stepping out and seeing what I want to do. And we own a 2-family home, and I think we may be possibly evolving into doing an Airbnb, which would keep me busy, number one, because, and you do that too, you're almost like a glorified housekeeper at a hotel. When you have your Airbnb, you got to keep it clean. You got to be there maybe to greet your client, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a whole host of things that I want to do. Plus,
it's a part-time job right there.
Yeah. My mother's 90. And, she needs a little bit more, care and a little bit more attention. So there's that. But yeah, in terms of, I've got a new career that I want to jump into. I don't have that. But
something that we talked about a lot over the years is, for a long time now, you've been making your own wine. And for a little while, you were seeing if you could get interest in it at local bars, and there seemed to be a bit of interest.
There is, and that is still definitely on a front burner, if you will. A lot of hoops to jump through in terms of legality, and it's funny how things have changed rapidly since I started doing this. And I think I started doing this. My first vintage was 2015. Okay. So 6 years ago.
Really? It seems like so much longer.
Well, I did juice wine prior to that. But when I
Oh.
say my first vintage, that's when I actually got grapes.
I see. Oh,
Destemmed
okay.
them, crushed them, ferment, just, other than growing them,
Yeah.
I was doing it just like any other winery would do.
Gotcha.
But
And you're getting California grapes, right?
yes. Yeah.
You can't do better than that, in my opinion.
No. But here's what's interesting. Lately with climate change, if you will, a lot of regions in the world, California, France, Spain, Italy, have been getting really hit hard with a decrease in crops and decrease in yield. And I wonder if down the road, if I was to really take a leap and let's just call it an urban winery and start an urban winery, because I am 100% dependent on somebody else growing my grape. What happens if climate change continues on, if these wildfires continue on, if grape crops continue to decrease in yield? Will I even be able to get grapes at some point?
Well, yeah.
So that's in the back of my mind as well. But the good thing is it doesn't take a huge amount of capital to get this thing going.
And that's the thing. You don't want to overinvest. You want to do a slow build to no matter what you're doing.
Right. Exactly. So I know, I think France had a really bad year where I think they lost 50% of their crop. Not due to fires like California has, but they had very early warming. So if I remember right, they had budding going on in March, which was way too soon.
Yeah.
So they had rapid heat too early. Then it got cool again, cold actually, which damaged those buds, and it decreased their yield substantially. So Go ahead.
That wine store, whatever you call it, on Lee Road out here in Cleveland Heights. It's called Urban Winery, I believe, isn't it?
The Cleveland Urban Winery. Yes.
Do you have any idea how they're doing? Because I don't, since the whole vid thing, and I'm careful about anything that I say regarding the vid,
right?
Because it gets us flagged in an algorithm, and we've been threatened to be deplatformed, and so be careful about what you say.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I don't know how have they survived the vid,
I think they're still doing well. In fact, we joined their wine club about 6 months ago, give or take, which gives us a reason to go up there.
Yeah, it's great.
We're on the west side, and obviously they're on the east side, so it's a little bit of a commitment to go. But she's doing real well, and she expanded. They have beer there now.
Nice.
Which when they started, they did not have beer. So I think she has not only a couple of draft handles, I think she also has cans and bottles for sale as well.
I'll bet you that they are bringing in beer from the microbrew across the street.
Boss Dog, right?
Lee Road has always been, Lee Road in Cleveland Heights is just a strip of restaurants and bars and things like that. And they've always been very cooperative with each other. You would think they'd be competitive. They're not. It's like, you can bring in food from over there because we don't serve food. And they'll be like, you can bring in alcohol from over there because we don't serve alcohol. It's really a nice thing. So I'll bet you anything that Urban Winery is bringing over the microbrew from across the street.
I know for a fact they have Boss Dog on tap there.
Oh, that warms my heart. Love that. But it's also a really nice blueprint, as I'm sure you know, a really nice blueprint for what you could possibly do on the west side.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I almost think that I would want to be, at least starting out, more of a supplier, if you will.
Distributor. Yeah.
Or distributor than the guy that actually has a true brick and mortar bar, restaurant, whatever you want to call it.
I know that's so time consuming. It's a lot of work. It's
Yeah,
so much work. You don't want to do that much work.
I don't want to be pouring wine and beer at midnight for people. And
Right.
I kind of picture starting out a smaller place, obviously with all the winemaking equipment there, and maybe just a picnic table or two, where if you wander in and you want to get a glass of wine, you can.
Yeah.
I do know if I was going to do this, though, it's probably imperative that I also sell beer right out of the chute, because you gotta, there's people that don't like wine. So
Right.
imagine a wife and her husband, and she's like, I want to take you down to Gordon Square this weekend. There's a bunch of shops I want to go into. That guy's probably like, oh man, great.
Sure.
Right?
But if you also had good ventilation to make it a cigar bar.
Yeah, you could definitely do that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Sell some cigars on the side. Yeah.
Right. And if she also mentioned to her husband, oh, there's this, I heard about this little winery, and maybe the husband's not a wine drinker.
Yeah.
And now he's just really just disgusted. There goes my Saturday. It's shot. She drags him into the winery, and then he's like, well, wait a minute. They've got four local beers on
All
tap.
right. I already see you doing this out of your garage. Your garage is already pretty much retrofitted for this.
Yeah.
You got ventilation in there. You installed a fireplace. You
Right,
got the
right.
widescreen TV already.
Yeah.
You got everybody over there every weekend watching football. So
Right.
you're such a small jump away from doing that right in your garage.
Yeah. And I remember I got some good advice when I was first thinking about doing this. And it was definitely have craft beer, the local guys, right? Support your local guys.
Platform. That's my favorite.
Yep.
Definitely.
Platform. There's so many good ones, but
Yeah.
the recommendation was definitely have whatever the seasonal beer is on tap. Excuse me. Have a lager on tap,
yes. Always. Yes.
for people that like the lighter beers.
Yeah.
And then have a couple of other of their, signature beers.
Mm-hmm.
And you could even do rotating taps, where maybe you have a different microbrewery every month or every couple of months.
But think again, this gives you leverage to partner with somebody like a platform. Hey, I'm going to feature your beer if you feature my wine,
Correct. And
Yeah.
and I've also thought about maybe reaching out to one of these microbreweries and just saying, you got a little bit of spare space that you're not using.
Oh,
I need X amount of room. I'll bring in my own equipment. I'm not looking for anything from you in terms of finances. I just need some space. And who knows, maybe that would work.
it's a good way to dip. It's a good way to dip your big toe in the water.
Correct.
With little expense, almost no expense. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So if I could and then I always wonder if there's legalities to that, though.
It could be. What
Right.
about you? Because you started to mention, you did a while ago. You made me wonder. You did say something about some kind of legalities, and it made me wonder. Well, if you're selling a beverage, an alcoholic beverage, I never thought about this before, but there could be some kind of you got to protect yourself, like somebody got sick and tried suing you or something.
Right. Right. You would have to definitely incorporate. I know that when I talked to the lady that owns the Cleveland Urban Winery up in the Heights there, she said the biggest hurdle was actually getting her wine labels approved by none other than the ATF.
What's the ATF?
Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms.
Oh.
Those are the guys that you that are somewhat on a law enforcement track.
You gotta pay them off. You're gonna get shaken down.
Yeah. She said that took the most time, and it was the most frustrating portion of getting her business up off the ground. You literally have to design your label exactly how it's going to be on your wine bottle, right down to the ABV, the percentage of alcohol that your wine is. And then you send those labels to the ATF. I don't know what the approval process is, but it probably sits on someone's desk for months, right?
Yeah.
Before they get to it. And then they're like, okay, you're good. And then you can start bottling, labeling, dispensing, that sort of thing. But that's the one thing I'm not sure of. If I went into a microbrewery and said, Can I get a couple hundred square feet in your basement to set up a winemaking operation? I'm not sure how that would fly. And I'm pretty sure there'd have to be some permits for that.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. In other matters, we're already 3/4 of the way through the show. And I wanted to talk about this retirement thing because a while ago, earlier in the show, I said that you have, I think, a kind of a younger man's way of thinking about retirement compared to most people of our generation and older, meaning, so traditional, you work your ass off till you're 65, you retire, and you do an occasional trip. Maybe you do the snowbird thing to Florida. But you have been talking about for a few years now about possibly going somewhere and even trying different exotic spots for a few months every year. Can you expound on that?
Yeah. And as you said, a snowbird and buying a place in Florida. Boy, that's a real romantic idea for anybody that's retiring. I'm buying a house in a warm climate. Mm-hmm. And I think for a long time that was definitely a goal.
Mm-hmm. The American dream, man, in Ohio.
Yeah.
And anywhere like Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York.
Yeah. Right. But I think the more that I've traveled and the more that Janine and I have traveled together, and you start seeing this world and how beautiful it is. Yeah. I think, and there's a term, and I certainly didn't coin it, and it's been out there for a long time. It's called roving retirement.
I've not heard that.
Yeah, where you don't buy a house in Florida, for instance. You basically go somewhere different every winter, wherever your heart desires. And in this day and age with, what we're doing right now with a Zoom or with Skype, boy, you can check in with your family and grandkids every day. I think the idea of leaving your grandchildren for 3 months and it's going to tug on your heartstrings, I don't think that's really true anymore, because you can reach out and talk to them every single day, and see them as you talk to them. So we're actually I think we're going to start doing that. And
let's talk about the financial part of it, though. Immediately, everybody else is thinking right now, yeah, it sounds great, but also sounds cost prohibitive.
Super cheap. There's a million websites that you can find, and just Google it. But for instance, the south of Spain, and you and I had been to Spain, but not to the south of Spain.
Did a little research on that, and
the Costa del Sol is
the bucket list there for me.
Yes, it's beautiful. I did a search, and I think we put in a minimum of 2 bedrooms, a minimum of 2 bathrooms. We wanted a Mediterranean view because you're right on the Mediterranean there. Pool, an in-ground pool was not a deal breaker because we'd be there in the winter, and the winter there, as you know, is much nicer than here. We're a lot of sun, mid 60s maybe every day. But if there was a pool, hey, that's a bonus. We're talking out the door for a freestanding home. And there was dozens to choose from, under $2,000 a month.
Wow. Now here's something else to think about to couple that with, because depending on where you live and what kind of demand you have, if you could also Airbnb out your place while you're gone, it's a wash.
Yeah, it's a wash. Absolutely. So, you can, and it's amazing. Americans think that the standards, around the globe aren't as nice as ours here in the United States. And you couldn't be more farther from the truth.
Right.
These are beautiful homes. We're talking beautiful kitchens, beautiful outdoor areas. A lot of them have built-in barbecue pits, for instance.
Almost. A lot of people have been, Americans have been moving to places like the Philippines or parts of Mexico, where the cost of living is really cheap. And because we finally, and COVID is really, I just said it. I didn't mean to say it.
Can you say pandemic, or does that get you flagged too?
I don't, we don't know what their algorithms are, but I am sure that every time you say the vid words and things that are related to it, such as some of the controversial treatments, you get thrown into an algorithm where it's like, okay, now you're being monitored. What are they talking about? And is it controversial? Now you are getting, we do not get organic reach as a result of all the controversial stuff that we've said on here. So other people, we're not monetized because we don't have enough viewership. But if we did, I'm an avid podcast listener, so I listen to the woes of all these other people that are way more popular than us, but they will get demonetized for half the things they talk about.
Okay.
So there's freedom of speech online is a really big problem right now, but I think it's going to start to it's going to have its day of reckoning. It's going to start coming. Yeah. Google, and who owns YouTube, and Twitter, Facebook, they're all like, what they're doing, they're digging their own grave in a way, because they have been heightening the censorship, which is creating such a gap that's going to get filled by someone else. But they're so arrogant that they think that they're controlling all of this free speech. It feels like it's coming to a head. So the sooner it happens, the better. In the meantime, we have to be careful with how we say things. But what I was getting to, my point is, so the vid has gotten us to realize that we can work remotely. Right. We've had this capability for the 10 to 20 years, but now we're only accepting it, which I think is a great thing. Cuts down on the carbon footprint a whole lot.
Absolutely.
And so I think more and more people will start living abroad, or at least what you're saying, at least part-time.
Yeah. And to me, and to Janine as well, getting out of the United States for a couple of months is going to be somewhat refreshing.
I agree.
To be honest with you. The way things are now, and maybe things will change, but to me, it's so toxic right now that to get a break, I think for myself and for Janine, we would welcome that. And you can really, if you do your research, you can live like a king. Two people can live almost anywhere, including your utilities and your groceries and your entertainment. You can live like a king for probably $2,500 a month.
Right.
It's all you got to do is do a little bit of a research, and you're not going to be in a shack. You're going to be in a really nice home. You've traveled abroad as well. Most places, food is very cheap, whether you're in a restaurant or at a grocery store. It just seems like things are cheaper, and it's just not as hectic. We're not going 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So I think for us, I think the roving retirement's going to be really exciting. And if we ever find somewhere, Barry, that we just fall head over heels in love with, well, then, we would probably think about it. But
a permanent move, you mean?
Yeah. Oh. Well, no, or buy a place just for a winter getaway, right?
Right. That's interesting, because that's a difference in personalities. Lisa and I would, if we don't move somewhere, we just really fell in love with Asheville. A year ago, we fell in love with Nashville. But we love going to Sarasota every year, and always entertaining doing the snowbird thing. But my point is, we're creatures of habit. We know, we want to know where we're going. And like, I romanticize, I would love the idea of the roving retirement that you are talking about, but I know Lisa and I are more creatures of habit and just want to know where we are. But it's exciting, and it is very accessible as you're opening up our eyes to.
Well, and the thing with us is, if we do this, and I'm pretty sure we will, I think Janine wants to work a few more years. So maybe 2-3 years from now, I think it'll be a distinct possibility that we're going to we're going to pull up shop here in Cleveland for 3 months, and we're going to go somewhere. And the whole reason why we're looking to get 2 or 3 bedrooms is everyone's welcome to join us. We're going to put the welcome mat out, and it's going to be, hey, Barry and Lisa, you want to come to the Costa del Sol for a week? All you got to do is get your airfare and come on down. Got a place to stay. We would love to have Nick and Tana, the grandbaby, and just the cultural thing for the granddaughter, to expose her at a young age to a whole different culture, to different languages, different foods. Man, I don't think you can put a price tag.
Agreed.
On how valuable that is. So
the experience of going overseas, speaking from our point of view, it expands yourself as a person. Yes. And nobody can take it away from you. Yeah. Different cultures. It's the way to go.
So that's really our big goal. We don't want to isolate ourselves from our friends and our families for 3 months. We want to have a big enough place where if people want to come, and between all of our friends, we could probably book up half the winter, if not more, with guests, and it would probably get to the point of, man, we need a break from everybody, and God knows I'm over here for another week.
Oh, you guys are social animals. It's like, no matter where you go, you would get entrenched with the natives there. Your neighbors, your new neighbors. Oh man, they'll never want you guys to leave. You know?
Yeah.
I know that for sure.
So the retirement thing, that's kind of our angle. And I am blessed and I'm sure if people watch this, they're going to be thinking about, well, how did this guy go at 52, 15 years less time working than most of us. Yeah. And it is the pension. I am very blessed to have a fantastic pension, which is very rare nowadays.
Well, I'm happy that you somehow managed to squeak away with that, because our government has gotten to the point where it would not have surprised me that they would have gotten their hands into it.
No. And what's interesting too is, and just to give a little bit of an education to the Joe taxpayer. So the individual employee kicks in 12.25% of their salary toward their pension. So it's not free. I contributed, and so 12.5%, right? So basically I was living on 88% of my salary for my whole career. But on top of that, I was also able to squirrel away into a private, in my case, because I'm a government employee, I had a 457K, just like a 401K, but a little bit. So literally, Barry, for almost my whole career, I really was living on about 75% of my salary.
Wow.
There were lean times.
The smartest thing you ever did on top of doing that for yourself is to buy that duplex. It was a brilliant move. And you didn't even know it, but that was before it was called Gordon Square.
Right. I was an urban pioneer. Totally.
Yes, you joked a couple of years ago about, which I thought hit the nail on the head, is you like to, every now and then you like to pull up Zillow and watch your property value go up.
No, it's unbelievable.
That was a brilliant move.
When you look at what I paid for it, and let's see, it's been, my gosh,
I would say 17 years.
Bingo. Yeah. 2004, I bought my property. So it is astronomical, the values here, but just getting back to the pension. So basically I lived on 75% of my salary, my whole life, my whole adult life. The pension is decent. And the pension is 60% of your salary. Okay. So that's what I'm getting. Okay. And then when you look at the 457 and, over 30 years of time, I'm so used to living the way I am, I don't even need to tap into that 457 unless I wanted to splurge on something.
Yeah. Cool.
So I would tell most people, if you don't need the fancy car, if you don't need the giant house, boy, you can be really comfortable. and you can live a really good life. And if you find out what your passion, what your hobbies are going to be, in our case, it's traveling. It's so attainable. It's like falling off a log. It's easy.
You know, you could possibly just speak into hobbies, and you know, I think a lot of people, over the years, I've seen people retire. A lot of people just start getting really old at that point because they haven't properly thought about what to do with their life that seems meaningful and productive and all that. Other people, like I remember my grandfather, when he retired, he seemed busier than ever, right? Just doing so much family stuff. But if you want to do your roving retirement, one thing you could do is start a YouTube channel. And you got a smartphone in your pocket and just start documenting it like crazy, and for the heck of it, and see where it goes. It'll probably get monetized because people just eat that stuff up.
Yep.
And it could just be really fun. It could just be a hobby that earns you extra money, even though you really don't need it. But hey, donate it to charity if you want.
Exactly. You know? Donate it to the local charity wherever we're staying for those 3 months, right?
Oh, that builds upon itself. That'd make it even more popular.
You find a need, and boy, there is. I remember 5-6 years ago when I went to Peru, and I did the Inca Trail to Machu Picchu, but also spent time in the cities, right? I was in Lima, and then for a couple of days I was in Cusco. And you know, you have your idea of what poverty is in the United States, but poverty in the United States is
it's like not having the latest iPhone.
It looks like Beverly Hills compared to poverty in other countries. Very true. You walk by people that are living in huts that they made out of clay and scrap wood, and they have no running water and no iPhone on top of that. Right. That's poverty.
Right.
That's poverty. So it really makes you appreciate what you have and just how lucky you really are. And I think you come back from an experience like that, and you start seeing what truly matters and what doesn't when it comes to living in the United States. And
well said.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's right on the heels, and we got to wrap up. The time got away from me there, but what you said a few minutes ago about the roving retirement, going to different cultures and stuff, be great to get a break from the United States. Totally agree with you. At the same time, I think you'll be able to come back with appreciation for a lot of things as well.
Yes.
So it's good for perspective.
Yeah. It never ceases to amaze me when I come home from being abroad and I'm back in that US airport and I'm waiting to clear customs. I still always say to myself, man, this is still the greatest country in the world.
Right.
You know, no matter what, we've got a lot of flaws, but it's great to come home to the good old US of A. Hands down.
Yeah, I hear you. With that, we're going to wrap up, but we're going to do an after show too, because I got to ask you, getting back to a couple of your calls, your fireman calls. We went off on a tangent on that, and there's a couple that I want to talk about in the after show. So, hey, everybody, go to over50startingover.com and sign up and get this dropped in your email box as it happens. Also, just pull up your smartphone, your podcast app of choice. In fact, I'm going to encourage you to download. Why did it slip my head right now? I wanted to say SoundCloud. No, it's the other one. I forget. I'll bring it up next week because we're on video on that one now too. So when we get booted off YouTube, go to that. All right. Talk to you guys next week. See ya.
Bye-bye.